Today I'm going to be showcasing basic combos that we can do during fights, basic rotations regarding light aura, and things we can do on Luminary so that you get a better grasp of how to play this character and pick it up right from the start. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. I always love replying to comments, answering their questions, and just seeing some feedback from my viewers. First off, I'm going to be showing our bread and butter of light aura bursting. Whether you're in Luminary Forge or just your weapon skills, you can use these, and this is the combos that you really need to always use and get familiar with because it's going to be our most common light aura detonation. So for this, we're going to do F1 into Effulgent Stance into Piercing Stance. So we gain a light aura from F1, we explode it with Effulgent Stance, and we get a new one, and then we explode that with Piercing Stance. That means we detonate 2 light auras, and we get the damage buff from Piercing Stance in order to start comboing with anything that we want. The next combo we're going to do is a simpler one. It's usually what I use for small bursts or when I'm bursting a sentry down. And it's simple, it's just F1 into Piercing Stance. So we will just explode 1 light aura and we'll get the damage buff. Just like that. I don't like using F2 as a light aura source at the very start of the fight because I need to know if the enemy is going to be a Condi build or a power build. And even if it is a power build, some power builds have a lot of nasty Condis, and I want to make sure if I will need that Condi cleanse for the fight or not. The next combo I'm going to be showing you is a high burst combo that usually results in a burst or a one-shot of someone. We're going to do the light aura combo again of F1, Effulgent Stance, into Piercing Stance. We're going to go into our Radiant Forge. We're going to use the Hammer 2. After using the Hammer, we're going to leave Radiant Forge and then do our Spear Burst. If you time that really well, you'll get the 10% damage buff from Piercing Stance and another 10% damage from leaving the Radiant Forge on the Hammer. So on real time, this is what it should look like. The thing with that is you have to be very fast in order to get both damage buffs into that one-shot combo. And the Sigil of Celerity really helps us with that because after we leave the Luminary Forge, we'll get another 5 seconds of quickness from using the Spear 5. Another basic combo you can do is F1 into Piercing Stance, into Luminary Forge, into Hammer 2, F2, and then Hammer 2. The F2 is very... You don't always have to use the F2 for this combo. It's okay if you save it, that way you can keep it as a Condi cleanse. So what we're going to do is F1, Piercing Stance, Luminary Forge, Hammer 2, F2, Hammer 2. That will result in 1, 2, 3. 3 light aura bursts. F1, first light aura, and then Piercing Stance will burst that. When we go into the Radiant Forge, we instantly get a light aura, and then we use the Hammer 2 to explode that, and then F2 we get another light aura, and then the second part of Hammer Forge will give us another destination. So what's good about that is we set ourselves up with another damage buff, Piercing Stance 10%, and then if we leave instantly after the hammer, that's another 10%. At the beginning of the fight, I like to only use my Hammer 2 and then leave, just to get that 10% buff and to have my Luminary Forge on a 5-second cooldown in order for me to see what other utilities I need from Luminary Forge. Whether I need to chase someone down with my 4 ability, whether I need to start blocking some of people's attacks, or whether I need some healing. Take note that Hammer has a 10-second cooldown, so as soon as your Luminary Forge is back up again, there's still a 5-second cooldown until you can use the Hammer again. Next up, I'll be showing you a bow combo that you can do. There's a bow combo that I like to do when there's multiple people. It's very simple. I start with a longbow 5, and then depending on who I want to target, I follow it up with Luminary Forge Sword 4, and then I do my hammer combo. So let's say I have 2 targets here. I'm gonna do my longbow 5, and let's say the Stone Mist Lord is lower. So what I did there was I longbow 5 both of them just to CC them, and I have the choice to pick whoever I think is squishier, and then I do my longbow 2 on them, and then I close the gap with my sword 4, and then I do my F1 effulgent stance, piercing stance, hammer. And then depending on how the burst went, if they got down just from that, then I'm gonna start attacking the other person. I might follow it up with shield 5 in order to block some of their damage, and then daze them after with a flip skill of shield. Or if the target that I wanted to burst wasn't dead yet, most likely the other teammate is on top of you, and so it'll be a perfect chance for us to leave Radiant Forge, swap to our spear, and then do a huge AoE on both of them. So let's do that again. But this time we're going to do the spear burst after. So I start my longbow 5 to CC them. I longbow to my target. I swap to Luminary Forge. I use my sword. I do my burst, and then let's say both of them are on top of me. I go out, swap instantly, and then stun them again and burst them. That's very good if you're trying to clip farm, or if you're simply doing an outnumbered fight. Most of the time, starting with a longbow when there's multiple people can really help you control the field and can let you pick the target you want to get rid of first. And as soon as you get that one down, that outnumber fight gets way easier. Another thing I want to talk about is we have an extra light aura that we can get in the Radiant Forge, and you can do this as well outside of Luminary Forge, but it's simply having a symbol down and then leaping. So I used a staff 3 into sword 4. That gives us a light aura, just because a combo field and a light combo field and a leap results in a light aura. So that also works for Great Sword 4 into 3. And if you want, you can apply any light combo field on the floor using your weapons, such as Spear 5 or Sword 2. One thing to make this successful is that make sure you're not targeting anyone when you use your Sword 2. Make sure you have no target on, that way the symbol will instantly be on the floor on you. And then once you have the symbol down, you can go into Radiant Forge and then do your leap, resulting in a light aura. Some other leaps that the Luminary has is the Luminary Elite. However, I don't recommend the Luminary Elite since it's not that strong. If ever you do want to run Luminary Elite, some places where it might be strong will be big group fights, or in circumstances that you're trying to burst 3 or 5 people that are clumped up together. I feel like that would be very good. So we use my sword 2 to put a combo down, and then we use our elite, Luminary Elite, to dash forward and give us a light aura. Regarding the effulgent stance, since it does give us 4000 barrier, some people might use it sparingly. In my opinion, it's good to use it at the very start of a fight, just because of its low cooldown. It gives you protection and blindness, and the damage and daze effect really helps you to combo at the very start. Regarding piercing stance, this will be our main light aura detonator, because it has 2 charges and it has a damage buff. Aside from that, it has a mini daze and blindness, which really helps us interrupt the flow of the enemy whenever we're trying to burst them. When starting a fight, we never want to start with spear. Spear has very bad engage unless the enemy is on top of you and engages you first. If the enemy does engage you first, I recommend F1, effulgent stance, piercing stance, and then use our spear skills. 5 to CC them, and then follow up with everything else. That way we're getting that quickness from the spear 5. We always want to start with spear 5 when the enemy is on top of us because of the CC. So let's imagine that an enemy just jumped on us. We're going to do F1, effulgent stance, piercing stance, spear 5, 2, 3, 4. When it comes to starting the engagement, I like to use sword or longbow first. I like to start with sword 2 into F1, effulgent stance, piercing stance, and then go into our luminary forge to do our hammer 2-2. I don't like to start with sword 5 because I like to reserve that for follow-up damage after I leave the luminary forge. So this is how it's gonna look. Sword 2, F1, effulgent stance, piercing stance, luminary forge, hammer, hammer, leave luminary forge, and then at this point they're probably running away. So let's say this is them now, running away. I follow it up with sword 5 and then sword 4. And from there on, we can chase them either further. After the immobilize from advancing strike, I will start doing my sword 3 on them to follow them. By the time we're done with that combo, we can chase further using our luminary 4. And then once we're here, we can use the hammer again to interrupt them. And while they're interrupted, we could leave luminary forge, swap into our spear, and then CC them. Unless we're in a really long, drawn out fight, I don't like to use all my luminary skills at once. Remember that if you only use one skill and leave, it's a 5-second cooldown. If you only use 2, it's 10 seconds, and whether you use 3 or all 4, it's going to be 15-second cooldown. Depending on my matchup, I don't like using my hammer 5 aggressively. I prefer using it sparingly depending on the situation. With the melee variant of this build, sword, and spear, we really need to reserve our luminary shield block, our luminary 5, for those long range kiting abilities from people. You don't want to be stuck at a range where you constantly have to chase them and have no answer and just be taking free damage. If ever you get low, just remember that's also an opportunity for us to do some damage on them. Our heal skill gives us a light aura, but it also detonates. So let's say I'm half health, I have a bunch of conditions on me, I need to heal. Instead of simply pressing the heal button, I can give myself a light aura, F1, and then use my heal skill to explode that, And since we have another light aura from that, I can use Piercing Stance to explode that and start counter-attacking and bursting them back. The great part about this build is that even when you're healing, you're constantly attacking them. So I'll quickly show you what the burst will look like in a big group setting when we start with the longbow. So I'm going to do my longbow 5 into 4 into longbow 2, depending on which target I want to focus. And then we're going to go into our Luminary Forge. We're going to gap close using our sword 4. And then we're going to do our light aura burst, F1, effulgent stance into piercing stance. And then we're going to leave our Luminary Forge, weapon swap, and then do our spear burst. This is what it will look like in real time. So that'll result in 280k damage. Usually you'll have 1 to 2 downs by then. So just to recap, I'll be doing it at a slower pace now. So what we did was longbow 5 into longbow 4 into longbow 2, and then Luminary Forge into sword 4. I do my F1, effulgent stance, piercing stance, hammer 2, and then I exit Luminary Forge, weapon swap, and then I do my spear combo. Your spear combo really depends on how you want to do it. My preference is spear 5, 2, 3, and then 4. And by the time all of that is done, I have my second charge of spear 2 ready. If you really want to min-max your damage while you're in your Radiant Forge, you can use an F2 when you're doing the hammer skills to explode another light aura. It's totally up to you. Now we're going to talk about the AoE combo whenever we're using sword and spear. So when it comes to our sword burst, we want to do 2-5 into our light aura burst of F1 effulgent stance, piercing stance, Radiant Forge, 2-2, and then exit Radiant Forge and use our spear burst. This is what it looked like in real time. That'll give us 260k burst, similar to the longbow burst. However, this one is much faster, but less CC. When starting with the sword, we only immobilize the one person that we want to focus. So we have to be really careful, since the other people can interrupt our combos. The good thing about the longbow 5 is everyone is stuck in their little rings, so it's very hard for them to help the person that you decide to target. So just to recap everything that we talked about today, our main light aura burst is F1 effulgent stance into piercing stance. That'll explode 2 auras and give us a damage buff, and whatever we combo after that is totally up to us, whether we want to combo it with a weapon skill or if we want to go into the Luminary Forge and do our hammer 2 in order to get another damage buff. Next combos I want to talk about is our mini bursts that are low resource. Sometimes we don't want to spend all of our resources all at once, and we don't want to do big bursts, and we only want to focus on small little bursts. This will be useful against thieves, where you only have 1 or 2 seconds at a time to attack them before they go invis or they TP somewhere safe. So some quick bursts is sword 2, F1, piercing stance, and then hammer on our Radiant Forge. This is what it'll look like on normal time. So that combo gives us 30k damage. Another small burst we can do is Sword 5, Sword 4, Radiant Forge into Sword 4-4. This is good for people who are constantly running away from you and people who are just very slippery and hard to lock down. So we lock them down with 5-4. They decide to run away, so we follow up with our Sword 4-4. Another burst we can do is Sword 5, F1, Piercing Stance, Hammer Hammer, and then we can follow that up with 2 and 4 if they decide to run away. So we're going to start with a Sword 5 just to immobilize them to make sure that all our other abilities hit. This is what it looks like in real time. And after that, let's say they run away, so we do 2, 4. That's the end of the rotations. Basic rotations, burst rotations, and small burst rotations. So now that you know the Luminary rotations and bursts, hopefully this video helped you understand the class better. Hopefully it's not as confusing, and I hope to see you in WvW using the Luminary. Thank you guys for watching, and see you on the next video.